Facebook and YouTube. I'm Fred Shropshire with WCNC Charlotte, and I have my buddy and colleague who I have yet to see in person, and I haven't seen you in a long time, but you're churning out great work with our defenders section here. And we've been doing a series of stories with our Where's the Money franchise, where we're helping people through everything that's been happening, not only with COVID-19, but with our economy as well. And you put together a story that's going to air in our 11 o'clock newscast, where you're talking about kind of the backlog that we've seen in North Carolina with unemployment. Talk to us.
That's right, Fred. First of all, good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. What about this story, though? This is it seems like we're doing the stories. We're talking about unemployment numbers every week, several times a week. There's a huge backlog across the country, but also here in North Carolina with employment.
Yeah, so let's start with number one. There's about 75,000 unemployment claims that are pending in North Carolina. Those are state and federal claims. So you got to really feel for those people. Just like a couple weeks ago, it was above 100,000, right? But there's still 75,000 people essentially that are waiting for their money, and many of these people have waited a really long time. And I'll kind of give you the backstory of how we got to this point, to tonight's story that's going to air at 11. I did a story a couple weeks ago. You probably remember. It was about a laid off CMS school bus driver.
Yeah.
She made a minor error when she filled out her employment paperwork. And that error basically resulted in her claim getting denied.
What a nightmare.
And she had to appeal it. So really, she's going to qualify because, believe me, she qualifies for the unemployment, but then she had to appeal it, right? So to appeal it, she now has to wait an extra 8 weeks to even get her appeal scheduled, maybe even more, because they're so behind, because they're overwhelmed, this agency, the Division of Employment Security. So we ran this story. We had tons of people that kind of responded and reacted. We had a couple people that even wanted to help her out financially, this bus driver. One of those people actually lost her husband to COVID, and she wanted to help this woman who couldn't even afford her medicine at the time, because she felt like her husband would have wanted her to do that. That shows you there's some great people out there that want to help these other folks that really, it's like kind of becoming, can I afford rent this month? Can I pay my water bill and my electric bill? Well, one of the people that reached out to me after that story is a man that used to work for the Division of Employment Security. And he didn't just work for them. He was a manager. He managed the Mooresville office. And over the last decade, he worked there, right? Last decade. And he's been in a situation where he worked there when unemployment was really high before. Not like it is right now, right? We're in a different world today. But he basically told me, Nate, the reason that it's so hard to get these claims resolved quickly is because there are not enough people that are qualified to actually handle the complicated claims.
Wow.
All right. So the state there's about 3,000 people working for DES, the Division of Employment Security now, 3,000, which is really an improvement from March. It was like 500 back then.
Wow.
So 3,000 people. We wanted to know if when I call DES and I talk to someone and they escalate my claim, which can take another 6 weeks to get a call back, by the way, how many people can actually fix the problem, right? Because if I call someone and the person that answers my call can't fix it, right? They're just answering the phone, right? So we asked the state, we said, well, how many people are actually qualified? How many people are these adjudicators that can make decisions, that are trained? And the bottom line, Fred, is that 1 out of every 7 employees at DES is qualified to actually fix the complicated claims. So it should be no surprise to people that some of these folks are waiting. And I think we all understand the people at DES are trying, man. You know what I mean? They really are. They're trying to help these people. I believe it. But every day that goes by right now, for those people who are unlike us that don't have a job right now, it's brutal. You know what I mean? And I would just hate to be in their situation. And so the bottom line is we've been trying to help those people. Like, we've been trying to figure out what the problem is systemically, right? What's the problem with the system? How can that be made better? But in the short term, how can we help these people get their money?
And I know they run the gamut too. Like like you said, some of the claims are complicated. Some of the issues are complicated. And that some of them are not, by the disparity in the amount of time that it takes to handle claims. Some of them it takes what, a week, and then others you have to step in and help them.
And here's the thing, a lot of times, I mean, some of these cases are just kind of hung up, waiting for someone that can say, okay, I can fix this quickly, right? And so we reached out to, we reached out to several, I don't know, more than a dozen at least, on behalf of more than a dozen people, maybe 20 at this point, Fred, trying to get them to help to kind of move the ball a little bit for them. And in a handful of cases, like almost instantly, the state fixed the problem after we reached out. So you know that it wasn't really so much as it was complicated, it was just waiting for someone to become available to help try to remedy the situation. And eventually it brought me to this man from Ballantyne, lives in Charlotte, originally from up north. And he drove a charter bus for a local transportation company. And he was laid off. Of course, I mean, who's taking charter buses now, right? And he initially got his unemployment. He got his 12 weeks of unemployment pretty quickly. Like usually it should take 14 days or less to get your first payment. He did for him. But then his 12 weeks ran out. And he's also, like many people, allowed to get an extension of those benefits, right? And he applied for the benefits. It was like in early June. And by the time we started talking, it was July. It's like mid-July. And he said, Nate, my savings are almost at zero. I could take out a loan. I have good credit, but why do I want to do that? And by the way, August rent is due, and I don't know if I can make it.
Yeah.
He's waiting 7 weeks for the equivalent of $5,000. And I was just like, my gosh. So we reached out to the state, and the bottom line is he got his money. Thank goodness. It was quick. He got his money. That's great for him, right? But what about all these other people, 75,000 people that are still waiting right now?
Wow, that's amazing. So and this is, unfortunately, this is a very common thing because of the reasons that you just described. What's been the most surprising thing that you have seen coming out of this experience?
So you remember the days when you'd hit the pavement as a reporter, like you'd reach out to the communications people, the PR people, essentially, that would handle the calls from the media. And early on, it was just unresponsive. I mean, I truly believe that this agency was so overwhelmed. I mean, I know it now that basically every employee in the place and from other state agencies were dealing with claims. People that didn't even have a job dealing with claims they were dealing with. And initially, the media representatives were not getting back to me. And I had talked with a lawmaker who basically said, historically, if you called a lawmaker or if you called a news reporter, you could get something done, right? They'd listen to you. But things were so difficult right now. They were so overwhelmed that they couldn't even, like a lawmaker couldn't even kind of move the ball, right? And they were saying that the media really couldn't either. So we kept pushing though. We were like, I'm sending emails like almost every day, Fred, to DES now on behalf of people continuing to ask questions, like tons of public records requests I'm still waiting on.
Wow.
Just because people deserve to be heard back from. And they've started they've been responsive here in the last couple of weeks, especially, but it was just shocking to me how difficult it was for them. And in full disclosure, look, I was furloughed for a week in June and I applied for unemployment and it took 8 days for me to get my unemployment, 8 days for 1 week, right? I didn't have to make a single phone call. Mine was a simple claim. My employer quickly responded. And unfortunately, not every claim is simple. And you make one little error and those people that really need the money, that one little error, can cost them like 15, 16 weeks without an income. So it's just been bothersome to me. I know everyone's struggling. I know that the agency's struggling, but these people need this money right now. We know the pandemic from a health perspective is really doing a lot of damage, right? Financially though, people are struggling too. And it kind of goes hand in hand. Imagine if these people were to get COVID and where are they going to have the money from? They don't have insurance, number one, because they lost their job. And they don't have an income. They don't have any liquidity because they can't get their unemployment benefits, which, by the way, they've paid into and their employers paid into. So it's been so frustrating, but it's been good. I feel good in the fact that we've been able to help some people. You know what I mean? Like there was a lady a couple weeks ago that we helped get like $8,000. And it's just been great to see that how grateful they are because they just want somebody to listen to them. And the truth is when people call this hotline, this helpline, the DES helpline, they're not getting a lot of times the cordial, compassionate, agent. They're getting the person that's just answering calls nonstop. And I think what you're going to see in our story tonight at 11, when we talk to a former employee, he's going to tell you why that is,
Yeah.
why there is little room for compassion when you're churning out the numbers that you are. And so I think that it's an insight that I'm really glad that we got, because I really believe he was telling me that these people really care that are working there. They really want to give people their money, but they're also confined to a system, right, that they have to work within. And I think his perspective is really interesting, and it kind of covers both sides of this thing, the good side and the bad side.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely looking forward to checking out the story. If you want to check out Nate's story, it's on our 11 o'clock newscast on WCNC Charlotte. And also you can check out our website, WCNC.com/money. That is where Nate and a bunch of our other defenders have been doing a Where's the Money series. A lot of folks out there need help, and that's what we're here for, to give folks help where they need it most. So we hope you'll check that story out again in our 11 o'clock newscast tonight. Nate, thanks for shedding some light for us.
Fred, great to see you again, man. Great to talk to you.
Good to see you too, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.